So you have the first bearing here, which I can see no alignment to it. You can actually unscrew it and screw it better, prevent that there is longitudinal backlash. There are a couple of bearings inside, but this has no alignment. Now, since this has no alignment, and since your main carriage goes with a part which is here inside, here inside, so there's a part that attaches to this main screw. They have to be aligned. Otherwise, if you open and you move around, they would hit each other. So where are the degrees of freedom? First of all, these screws here, which address this main part here, both screws, they are, I think, on purpose. If you see the hole there, it's not round, it's actually elongated, so you're supposed to tune it, to align it. So what do? Unfortunately, the driver box, the driver gear is also not aligned. So what I did was to go back with the carriage to that side, which, it gives you a reference because you cannot move this. And now play with these screws such that you have the proper centering of the axis with this part, this clamp that goes in beneath. And once you have that, so as you can see, these two parts are not matching. They are not supposed to. This side will give you if the clamp is inside or the clamp is outside. That's it. Fortunately, it is aligned vertically, because that I would not know how to fix, but it is rather well aligned vertically, so you just have to go inside and outside. Now, once this is on this side, then of course you have frozen these degrees of freedom, and now you have to transport it to this side. And here it's about almost a nightmare, because the gearbox is really, the axis of the gearbox is really not aligned with the end of the thing. So what do you have to do? You have to see, first of all, if it is rather well up and down. There are 4 screws. They are beneath this paper thing. There are 4 screws. And you have to unscrew this thing. And so the whole box comes out as a whole. Now, you have to really go here and push it up or down. How do you push it, front or back? You push it front or back by having I think you can see here, a spacer here, a shim here. So you open, actually the shim is just a small part, I think 1 millimeter in my case, and it has a hole such that the screw goes into this shim, and therefore it's tightened. And there's also a misalignment down and up, and there's another shim that it is here. Once it's tightened, it works perfectly. And now I can go from one side to the other, and there's actually no touching, it just works very well. So alignment of this thing is one of the first things. Now, the stability of the whole carriage is guided by what? It's guided by a support on this rail and this part being, pressed against also this rail. So the way out the lathe goes is that the main carriage works with this, this kind of V-shaped rail, and on the other side, and the end stock comes uses that rail and this, flat thing. So they're complementary in a sense. Now, what happens here? Well, what happens here is that this part has to be clamped rather strongly, such that it does not, elevate when you're working. How does it work? So what happens is that, of course, it's made of 2 parts that you can see here. So there's an upper part and there's a lower part. There are 3 screws beneath. And how it came was such that there is a big space. There's about 1.5 millimeter space between the upper and the down parts, which if you tighten the screws, it just tilts the down part. So the down part is tilted, which means it does not touch the rail in a flat surface, it touches the rail just in the corner. And this is very cumbersome. It's just, crappy thing. It's not smooth at all, and it's not stable. So what you have to do is just remove the screws, find a spacer, and, tune a spacer that you can tune by, using a sander or something. It's in the order of 1.5 millimeters, and tune it such that when you tighten the screws, it's really solid, but it's flat. So there's no tilt. So that's the other thing. Once you do these two things and you tighten all this, kind of backlash screws, and here it's rather stable, and it's rather good. You have to do this thing because it just, when it comes, it's actually rather poor, but then when you do it, it's okay. Now, the other thing I did was the tool holder. It's actually rather nice, but it is pushed too much up, such that the 16 millimeter tool does not fit in. It's not centered. So what I did was, and it's very easy, you just move this carriage out, and then there's a block. It's just a metal block here, which has two central screws, and you just remove this block and you take it to the mill and you cut it. Then you have to really, make a trial, then see how much this is centered or uncentered, and by just cutting it flat on the bottom, I was able to, put this part centered on the stock. So the stock here is now touching this perfectly, and I can use all the nice 16 millimeter tools that are much nicer than the 10 millimeters, which are not very stable. So this is also easy here. One thing that I'm still to do is just to replace these screws by shorter screws, just so that they don't touch the central thing. But this is just, it's easy, but a bit unpractical now, because when you go around, if you go around, you have to unscrew the screws first and then go around. So you just replace these screws by shorter screws. That's it. And you can use all the nice 16 millimeter tools. Now, motor and controller. Motor and controller work very well. You have this gearbox, which has basically 2 times 3 options. So here is backwards and forwards in terms of, this kind of rotation. Of course, it's coupled to the motor that you also have forward and that you have backward. I don't know if it is a bug or if it is like this, but if the motor is connected and you go to 0, it just, it breaks. And then you have to rearm it, and in 0 you don't rearm it. So if you want to go from forward to back, you have to rearm it back. Yeah, but then it works fine. So I don't know if it is a feature or if it is a bug. Okay, let's make it like this. So I was saying this goes forward and backward. That's it. And here there are 3 positions. So there's a kind of, that's 2 speeds, feed speed here. So there's a middle, a high, and a low. The high, you have to touch it, and it's of course the gears are not synchronized in any way. So what you have to do is unscrew this and then play with this thing by hand. Play with it while you're changing the gear. It's much better than rotating this at some speed. It's just better you just go here and you give it like this, and you change the gear and it works. So it's nice. Now, this thing also, that's where all the gear reduction is, for you to make any threads. And okay, so the motor and the connection is rather okay. After 1 or 2 hours of work, these 2 bolts just came off. You start to hear a kind of a noise, and I saw, and they were just not properly tightened. So I think the design is okay. You just have to tighten. Design is such that you have the motor here, you have the belt stretcher here, and this is where the main headstock head is done, and then all this part is connected to the gearbox. So when you place the gearbox, you also have to place this So you can remove this. There's a screw here, and there's a vertical bar that just holds everything. Okay. You also probably have to tune it a bit because it's not well lubricated and not even well tuned. Otherwise, it's this bottom gear is a bit too tight, but otherwise it works nice. So in the end, it works nice. I have still not aligned the tailstock. I will do that next, but it's rather nice. It's rather stable. One thing you can do is you just, move it around and see that there is no backlash in any thing, and it just even runs nicely in terms of this, okay. So you can plus it down, go a small speed. Okay, and you can see that it starts to move. It starts to move, and you can also see it in the VRO. And the noise is perfectly okay. So that's all.